Hello you lovely Mario Maker person, my name is Ceave and welcome back. Today we are going to take a closer look on the second placing idea in the Idea of the Year competition. We are going to take a look on 5 more designs for stages where it is forbidden for Toad to jump. So you ready? Let's do this! So here's our first idea. Toad finds himself on top of a couple of bullet blasters on top of lethal saw blades. These saw blades can't hurt our small mushroom as long as he decides to follow the physical rules of Treasure Tracker. As soon as he tries to jump though, the floor decides to collapse and he's forced to kiss the sharp blades. The mechanism behind this is actually super simple. As soon as the game starts, these shells try to hit the power block to the right, but they're stopped by a thwomp. This thwomp will only block them for as long as Toad doesn't jump, as a jumping Toad makes the thwomp angry and he decides to throw himself down. So now that Toad learned his don't jump lesson, let's see what he's actually supposed to do here. Luckily for him, this room is super simple to survive as long as he plays by the rules. All he needs to do is to avoid the Koopa and the thwomps and he reaches the exit door. Now he has to activate the small skeleton roller coaster, which is hidden behind the saw blade, and the P-switch on top of the thwomp to the left gets triggered. Hooray! In our next idea, it's not only forbidden to jump for Toad, but to gain any vertical height. Sadly for him, there are tons of obstacles which try to push him into the air if he isn't careful. If he hits one of these cannonballs, for example, everything collapses again. Here we use Buzzy Beetles instead of thwomps to trigger our prevent jumping P-switches. This is actually a lot more practical than using thwomps as you don't hit the item limit too soon with this technique. If Toad stays careful and plays the stage again, he soon finds himself trapped in the middle of a dangerous boss fight. Here he has to wait for the skewer to destroy all blocks so that the power block becomes triggered, while our small mushroom tries to avoid all the lethal fireballs. For our next don't jump design, we use invisible blocks. This variation is a little bit less cinematic than a collapsing stage, but probably a lot more useful. The cool thing about invisible blocks is that it's possible to pass through them in many ways without triggering them. In this level, our small backpacker has to go through hidden blocks by climbing and using platforms at first. Once he made it through the moving vine part, he faces a small puzzle. The exit door is just above him, but as Toad learned during this video, above doesn't mean reachable, so he needs to find a way to reach it without hitting A. Luckily there's a small contraption to his right, which helps him. If Toad triggers this skeleton platform, the platform will travel directly beneath the exit. Now he only needs to escape from here without jumping. Triggering the P-switch allows him to throw a shell down into this little hole, which grows a vine a few seconds later. Now, he's finally able to escape this idea and to enter the next one. The next idea is basically a don't jump autoscroller. Above Toad, there are 2 thwomps on tracks hidden. Once he jumps, the thwomps become angry and trigger a lethal P-switch. So our poor little mushroom is trapped in between these muncher pillars. This on its own wouldn't be too much of a problem if it wasn't for the horrific dogs which try to eat him. Toad now has to avoid getting bitten by the chain jumps while he can't jump. That's a little bit unfair. Mario would just jump over the munchers and run to the exit, but Mario carries no heavy backpack on his shoulders. So let's take a look on my favorite don't jump idea. Toad finds himself in a huge room. There are bullet blasters to his left which block each other and some small obstacles to his right. The ground isn't made out of brick blocks, which makes Toad confident that he won't fall into a bottomless pit soon. Together with this key, he's now able to go through the door at the beginning. This door teleports him on top of a moving platform. The platform would have been reachable by a simple jump before, but our small backpacker was too afraid of the consequences of trying it. Once the platform made it to the left, it lifts one of the bullet blasters into the air, which starts to shoot flying bombs. Toad is now able to escort one of these flying bombs back to the right, where they get ignited by a fire blade and explode directly on top of the blocks, which block the exit. How convenient. So Toad played through the whole level without jumping once, but was there really a lethal mechanic hidden in this stage as well, which would have killed him if he tried to jump? Or is Ceave playing mind games with him, as he got conditioned that jumping kills him, but in this room it would actually have no consequences? Should he try to make a last little jump before he leaves the room? Just to know for sure? he decides not to do so. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed this little video. If you enjoyed this little video, don't forget to leave me a thumbs up and No, I'm just kidding. Let's find out. So here's what happens if Toad jumps. The munchers get killed, the POW blocks drop down and the exit door becomes unreachable for our small mushroom, and he is forced to restart the room. But the really cool thing about this contraption is that it's able to remember when Toad jumped. If Toad jumped at the beginning of the stage, for example, nothing would have happened until he reached this area again. But then the exit would have gotten blocked. It was a pretty good idea by Toad not to play with the fire before. The mechanic behind this is actually incredibly simple. There are buzzy beetles hidden out of sight once again. If Toad jumps, they drop down and travel into this little hole. Once the P-switch at the end becomes triggered, they fall down and hit the POW block. But if Toad never jumped, there is no shell in here and the POW block stays lonely in his little hole. So thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed this little video. If you enjoyed this little video, don't forget to leave me a thumbs up and maybe you feel especially speedrun challenge today and want to hit the subscribe button as well. I hope you have a wonderful day and to see you soon. Goodbye!